Hello there, this is Jamie Hazelwood.
And this is Tommy Sims.
And we are here to just give you an overview as to what materials we use on our first film. So you're not spending hundreds and bajillions of dollars on all these things that we might not use for this one. So, Tommy, let's go through what we did, because you can see here the final product, and let's go through exactly what we used, so that way you guys can keep a good track as to what you'll need. So, first things first.
What we always start off with is just a basic cardboard box. You can see here we use that to make the set. We cut off one wall and folded it down so that way we're able to just open and close it. And we could even put the lid back on it and carry this around and take it wherever we would like.
Nice and convenient.
Yeah.
Just any sort of box, like a shoe box, anything of that sort. This is a banker box you guys can find at most office-type stores that have like a nice little set and pack. The nice thing is when you get them in a set or pack is then you can use the other ones for your other sets. So.
And you get at least like 10 of them.
Exactly.
So just imagine the possibilities that you can think of.
Oh yeah, have yourself a whole studio lot that they have out in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Only in your imagination and in your back room probably.
Or your basement.
Exactly. So, moving on, and how did we decorate, though, that box, Tommy?
The next thing that we did was we took colored construction paper of multiple colors. Here we used like a lavender for the walls and like a charcoal blue for the base carpet, and then we had like a purple and red that we decorated for the throw carpet, but you will see exactly how we made that in just a few videos. But just basic, what we did here was we cover the walls with just the flat pieces of paper. So regular-sized sheets of construction paper work great. They usually come in a multicolored package of maybe about 100 or so sheets. So if you picked up one of those, that would be perfect.
Yeah, because then you get a nice wide range of colors. Because obviously, a lot of these materials, you can carry that over to make more and more films. We don't want you to just use all these materials in just one film. We want to see how far you can stretch all these things. So that's always the great thing, is a lot of these materials come in bulk, so it gives you... You don't have to go out and buy new stuff every single film. So a lot of times we just like to recycle.
Right. So next up, for just basic materials, you're going to need scissors, glue, and possibly tape. Obviously, we cut out the windows and everything you see here. That's paper out with the scissors. And then we glued the paper to the walls and the windows to the wallpaper. And the tape comes in handy. Sometimes up at the top here you see that the paper is kind of like fraying, or if you cut your box a certain way, a wall could fall like this, and you could definitely tape that up. But one thing that I believe we taped down was the cat's bed here. If you didn't want it within in that spot the entire film, obviously you just tape it down rather than glue it down, so you can pick it up and move it around. Or if you wanted it to use this living room set for something else and it didn't have a cat in it, you could easily take that out.
Yeah, that's the nice thing, is when it comes to animation, you might not even see it, but some things could very slightly move, and then you won't be able to, as I said, you won't see it when it's happening, but then when you watch the film afterwards, you might see something moving around. So the tape really helps as far as to keep it down and not really, like a permanent setting.
It really secures everything to the set.
Exactly.
So next up, after you have all of the basic details done, are the little minor details that really add a artistic touch to the set. So like the little drawing in the picture frame up there was just drawn on with a black marker, and that's really the only thing that we ask for additional doodles on the set, is just with the one black marker, because we drew the little picture frame in, and then we also drew some details of buttons and wrinkles on the couch there, and also the little mouse hole over there, which will come in handy in the climax of this film.
And also the brick wall that's on the side there, which might not be too easy to
access. Right over here. There we go.
Yeah, that's what we use to really kind of sell the detail.
And then this is just another piece of construction paper glued to the outside of the box.
Right. And use some of the awesome Renaissance words there, the contours, shading, stuff of that sort, which you guys will learn about later on. So, moving on from that, Tommy,
we have some set decorations, and you guys see all these little sparkly pom-pom balls all over the set here. And those we kind of just threw in to make it look like there's a bunch of cat toys lying around. And cats enjoy toys just like that, so they work perfectly for this.
Yes, that's kind of more of what you'll be using for props. What we'll do is, before every film, we'll have a nice materials layout for you guys. And props, as you'll notice when you're going around and making these sets, that props are what really sells your set and what really makes it seem like it's lived in. Like, it's not just something you guys just made. And an example like this here is with those little pom-pom balls, like Tommy was saying. This really makes it seem like this is the cat's domain. He's lived here. This is where he likes to roam. So details like that, and then details with the marker to make to really sell that it's a couch or a nice little picture. That's what's really going to sell your films. So a lot of these extra materials here, where you don't necessarily need, but it's one thing that'll really make that film look nice and sharp.
And then with this film in particular, we do have something in mind, which will incorporate these pom-pom balls into the action of the film. And along with the pom-pom balls, you see here we've got another like cat toy stand up over here, and it's standing up via a pipe cleaner. And in your local craft store, you can find packages of pipe cleaners combined with pom-pom balls. So if you could pick up a pack of those, that would be perfect. And then you can have any color within that package that you could choose from.
Right, and that's the nice thing also with the colored paper. As we were saying before, they all come in big assorted packs. So that way when you guys are making more films, you don't necessarily have to keep making more and more trips to the store.
Right, so I guess moving on to our characters next, but you're going to need a bunch of the Sculpey polymer clay that we had mentioned, and also some clay tools, such as this one here, which will allow you to add in some designs to the characters. And like this, will help you attach little pieces like the pupils into the eyeballs, because sometimes the clay will stick to your finger. So if you have an additional tool to help you out, that will be quite helpful.
Yeah, and even if you don't necessarily have those tools, something that would act of that sort, like a toothpick or
pencil works great.
Paper clip, something like that.
Right, so for our cat character here, Crash, as we like to call him, you're going to see that his main color is black. So you're going to need at least 2 blocks of this black clay here, and you'll find that the Sculpey 3 comes in 2-ounce packages like so, and you'll need 2 of these for him.
Right, and we're just using, we've gone through this in many demos too. We like to just reiterate that we use Sculpey here, because that's the one that we find works the best. There's also, I think, Primo and a few other ones.
Primo, Fimo,
yeah, stuff of that sort.
Toon. But the difference between Sculpey and Toon is Sculpey, you'll see on the top of the packages, it'll mention that you are able to bake it in your oven. Now, Toon, and specifically Toon, it is a clay that is not meant to dry out. It is not meant to be baked in your oven. So if you put it in your oven, your characters will just melt rather than become hard plastic like this guy is now. Mm-hmm. And as you can see, we baked him just as an example that we can base off of for future sculpts of the same cat.
And we don't have to worry about him disintegrating or breaking down on us.
Right. So that's the difference between Sculpey clay and other like oil-based clay that isn't meant to dry. And that's probably one of the reasons why we like to stick with Sculpey. In our more advanced films, you'll see that we will bake pieces. And also with Crash here, he also has some white on him, and you can see that we also have some white in the dog, and obviously with the bone. So you're going to need at least 2 blocks of white clay as well.
And from looking at that dog, looks like he's got a lot of a certain color on there as well.
He is quite brown. Now the brown clay comes in those small packages as well, and for him, you will also need at least our magic number 2 blocks. Or you will see that the clay comes in the larger 1-pound packages. If you bought one of these, that'll be perfect. That's more than enough clay.
And as we said before, stuff that you can use later on then.
Right. So then we have our little mouse here, and some details on Crash, like in his ears. We have some gray. Now you can easily mix the black and white to get a gray, because just like paint, if you take 2 different colors of this clay mixed together, it'll create the brand new color. Or you can just go ahead and buy a brown block or a gray block of clay, because they do exist.
They do exist.
They do.
And so, speaking of that color combination, you can notice on that mouse as well, we got some pink there. But we also have some red on that leash for the dog.
Yep.
So
we have some red and yellow on the leash, and then you'll notice that Crash's eyes are also yellow. Mm-hmm. But we have some green in there too. So what you guys could do is go out and buy one of those sample packages of Sculpey clay that have anywhere from, I believe it's 10 different colors of clay, or you can even also buy a bigger package that has 30 different colors, just to get a few different samples of colored clay that you can use. And yeah, we just use a little bit of it, so you don't need to buy a full block, but those sets come with blocks that are kind of cut in half, so you don't get the full amount, and you can just experiment with stuff like that.
Right. That's always the great thing, is when you're limited by that, you can really kind of stretch the imagination and come up with what color you need. And speaking of that, so instead of buying a pink block, if we had some red that was for that color, we can just use some of the leftover white to combine it and then to make that pink, which is exactly what we did for that little mouse with his ears.
Yep. So I think
yeah, that just about wraps her up.
It. So just to reiterate, we've got a nice, lovely list here for you guys. So if you want to take the time, and feel free to pause the video here and write all this stuff down. So we've got number 1, our cardboard box. It could be a shoe box. It could be a banker box. A box that's big enough for you to build this little living room in, and then decorate it with colored construction paper.
And to decorate that, you'll need some scissors and glue and tape, and a black marker to add those details. And then going off the details, you also need some pom-pom balls and pipe cleaners, which, as we said, come in a nice little pack together.
And also, if you would like, for bonus extra credit, anything else that you would like to add to this living room to make it more lived in, if you will, anything that you could find, feel free to throw in.
Right. And then right over here is the list of clay. Now, one thing we do want to specify, and I believe we say this many times as well, is that this is just what we used for ours. So that way it gives you a good gauge. If you want a more of a tabby or an orange type cat, then you can get 2 blocks of orange instead of 2 blocks of black. You are not necessarily limited to what we do right here. This is just a good example of what you can do. If you wanted a cat of a different color, if you wanted even a different animal, it really just goes to show you, just to kind of gauge how much clay we used to make this particular character.
Right, and just if you wanted to write that down too, we specifically use Sculpey 3 clay.
Yes. So if your parents ask which one in that aisle, you point out Sculpey 3. Right. So as we were saying, this kind of goes through how much of each color that we used in there to give you guys a good estimate as to how much you'll need.
So to reiterate, 2 blocks of black, 2 blocks of white, 1 block of gray, 2 blocks of brown, and small bits of assorted colors.
Right.
And like I had mentioned, you can look for that multi-pack hanging up on the shelf in the clay aisle at your local craft store.
Right, and as I was just saying before, these are all things that you can use, but what we really want you to use with this is what, Tommy?
Your imagination.
Yes, because
look at that, it's so big it doesn't even fit on the screen here.
Just like your guys' imagination. It's so big it can't be contained by this one film. So that's the biggest thing that you guys need to bring to this. It's not necessarily any sort of clay or any sort of material, because we'd love to see what you guys can stretch from our little materials list here to make your own amazing film.
Also, don't forget your pen and your sketchbook, or a pencil and sketchbook, so you can draw down your ideas. We forgot to throw that on the list there. And then also with the clay tools here, just one last thing, you can find specific tools such as this poker here. It's sold separately, or they come in a package of multiple tools, and some of them will come with little plastic knives to help you cut the clay. If you wanted to pick up one of those, that would be great as well. Or if you can't find a package like that, feel free to use anything you can find, like, for example, scissors, paper clips, and pencils.
Radio. And so, that just about concludes it. So we hope that you guys got a good sense as to what we use. That way you can be ready to rock and roll when we come to our first demos. So with that, we are signing off. I'm Jamie Hazelwood.
And I'm Tommy Sims, and pretty soon we will get animated.
So until then,
stay animated.
See you later, guys.
Bye-bye.